Okay, hi, my name's Mark, owner of Rocket 88 Engines. I bought my first engine from Mike years ago. Mike used to get very grumbly and you know, he's getting old and that, so I approached him. I says, listen, I think you need to retire and you need to sell me the business. And yeah, it went from there. A year or two later, he phoned up the one day, he says, Mark, are you still interested? I said, yeah, you know, let's see if I've got the finances and all that. And here it is now, with a slightly newer outlook on the business, more on the fuel injected side of engines. They're better for many reasons. I still do the old stuff. There are guys who do want the old 350s. I'm personally a Gen 3 and a Gen 4 fanatic. I love them. I think just you get in, you turn the key, and that's it. It starts, runs. Sani Pass, Cape Town, no matter where you are in the country, hot or cold, you touch that key, it's going to start. The old things, you're pumping it, you're waiting, you're hoping it fucking doesn't leak fuel everywhere, and it starts. I had them, and the carburetor and the distributor, in my opinion, should be in a nice little glass box, put in the museum, and we admire the olden days, you know. And one needs to move forward, you know. But like I said, you know, there are the diehards who want them, and that's good for them, you know. And that's why we still cater for some of the older engines, but also keep in mind that the engines that I get from the States are basically come out of a scrapyard. As the years go by, I have to get newer and newer engines, and the older stuff gets whittled away, finished. I mean, even look at the Turbo 350. They stopped making it in the 80s. I still get them, but I get 3, maybe 4 in the container. Mike used to get 20 or 30 in the container. We're moving on to 700s now, away from the 350s, and we move to the 700s, which is an evolution of the 350 tranny anyway. Then we get the 4L60s. Now they become electronic, so we're trying to keep in the 700 range, but eventually, ultimately, they will become like a 350, hard to get, and people will have to bite the bullet, will have to just accept moving forward with the electrical side, you know. I think once people get over the electrics and the frightening side of it, it's better, it functions quicker, it's not relying on a cable and vents and hydraulic valves, it's all electronically controlled, it's much quicker, it works in a fraction of a second. You know, a cable can't do that. Going from the carburetor all the way down into the transmission, it can't, you know. So, yeah, we move forward. The engines will move forward as the years go by. It's part of it. You come to me, you want an old 350, but you're a little bit ambivalent, you're not sure which way to go. Okay, let's start off with the 350. Yes, it's cheaper. In the long run, in the short term, it's cheaper. 15, 16 grand, and I can give you a 350 with potentially a 700 transmission, 350 or a 400. A little bit flexible on that side, but we give you a 350. Guaranteed rebuildable. My guarantee is it's rebuildable. Broken block, heads, cranks, I sort you out, no questions asked, I'm not quibbling, okay. But you still need to rebuild it, so we need pistons, rings, and bearings. They're all fuel injected. I can't buy carbureted engines, they stopped in the 80s, okay. So everything comes out with some sort of a fuel injection system. Rip it all off. Manifold, distributor, carburetor, air filter, fuel pump. By the time you finish this 350, and only the 350, we haven't even got to the gearbox yet, we're looking at 50 grand plus, okay. In the short term, cheap. In the long run, expensive, in my opinion. Now, let's flip the story and we go to a 5.7. Technically, it's now the new 350, okay, because there's so many of them made and they're so popular in the States. So it's an LM7, it's a 5.3. Aluminium heads, cast iron heads on the 350. It flows better than any 350 head will ever flow. So that's already in the massive improvement. You've got better heads. Roller cam, can't go wrong. Flat tappet cam, okay. Again, it's just modern technology. Architect of the block, the bore spacing is the same and that's about it, and the big end bearings are interchangeable. Everything else is not interchangeable, okay. Yes, it is fuel injection. Yes, it is very electrical. If you know the system and know how it works, it's pretty simple. 5 sensors, 1 ECU, sensor goes down, it'll compensate, and it's very easy to diagnose. Right, you want this LM7? I supply it in 2 versions. On the floor, as is, cut out from the vehicle in the States for about 30-something thousand rand. fine. Or, right, boy, I don't want the wiring, I want this as a turnkey motor. That's not a problem at all. 49.6 plus or minus, depending on the exchange rate and what the government does. I will give you a 5.7 litre fully serviced engine and a fully serviced transmission. The wiring is redone, the ECU is reprogrammed, it's put on my test bench, it starts and runs. We make sure that we have oil pressure. I check the temperatures of the cylinders with a laser gun. That is the most accurate way. On a fuel injected engine, you're about 10 degrees out from each cylinder. That's how accurate it is. Old school 350s were way off. You can have 50-degree difference between two exhaust ports. Whereas the newer stuff, because you have an injector, injecting a specific amount of fuel per cylinder, you get a much better burn, and now you can actually measure the temperature of the exhaust ports very accurately. We have injectors sometimes that get bunged up from sitting in the yard, not a problem. We sort it out, take them off, send them out for cleaning, put them back in. That's why we test it. Oil leaks, water leaks, we make sure the thermostat opens and closes. It runs on the stand for 15 minutes, half an hour. Make sure there's nothing wrong with it, as in oil, water, etc. My laptop is plugged in it all the time. I can read all the sensors. So at the end of the day, basically you get an engine that starts and runs. You have 4 or 5 wires to hook up, depending if it's manual or automatic, okay? Fuel pump, fans, everything is there, nicely labeled, all packaged on a pallet. So when you get it, you've got an engine that has been just started. You get a video of it running as well. If you can't come in person, we send you a video. So when it leaves my shop, you know you've got a nice running engine. I give you 3 or 4 pages of information, what wire does what, roughly how to wire it up. Example, ignition, key on, must be hot when swinging. Fuel pump, 12 volts, it's in built-in fuse with a relay. So everything is done for you. You literally don't need to be an electrician anymore to get this going. And that is the beauty about it. You don't need to be an electrician. You can put 4 wires together. You actually need 2. One to the battery, and then the other one to the ignition key, and it'll start and run. We use, most importantly now, we use the original ECU. Okay, the GM ECU, there is nothing better, okay? If you want to do some very mild modifications, the ECU will accept it. If you want to start going hell-bent turbos and racing, then I recommend putting an aftermarket ECU on it, an American system, brilliant. But if you're going to put in a cruiser, Land Rover, whatever you want to put in it, and you want a nice standard engine, there is nothing better than the original ECU. Get in, turn the key, your wife can get in it now, your children can get in it. They can turn the key, press it, it starts and runs just like they got out of their BM into this hot rod thing that looks cool, but now you don't have to hit the throttle pump 10 times to start the engine. In the short run, yes, it's more expensive right in the initial set, but think about it. You're going to go past 50K. You haven't even got to the transmission yet on the 350. LM7's coming, engine and a box, everything for just shy of 50K. In my opinion, it's a no-brainer.